What's going on, everybody? TheKennyDubz here with another Mega Man X Dive tier list video. Today, I'm finally going to be making my PvP weapon tier list. People have requested this for me in the past, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make it. But the more I sat there and thought about it, the more, one, I just put it off, but two, I realized how hard this would actually be to put a tier list together for weapons in PvP, as opposed to characters. And this, as you can see from the tier list already over here, which you can't actually see my mouse, but I don't have actual tiers. I have the categories: busters, launchers, melee, sprayers, machine guns, niche. And that's because, as I mentioned frequently in my character overview videos, the weapons that are going to be best will depend on what the character is, right? So some characters, you know, they prefer buster type weapons. So then, let's say like Dive Armor X likes buster weapons, well then he wouldn't really care what the best launcher is. Or like Zero Nightmare Dark Mega Man EXE, they want buster plus melee, so they definitely don't care about what the best sprayers are. So with that in mind, I opted to just go for what the best weapons I think are in each category for PvP. As that'll be a lot easier to kind of just be like, hey, these weapons are just good for PvP, so just look at these, then depending on what unit you're using, whether they're brawler, you know, brawler slash bruiser, zoner, what have you, then you can just like go from there, as opposed to this weapon's top tier, you know, these weapons aren't. Well, because with the latter, the weapon the top tier, they don't really, that's going to change a lot depending on the unit you're using. So that's why I opted to go for this way instead. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. First up, busters, because that was the first category I thought of there. And for busters, we're going to go and grab the explosive bolt first, because that is the best buster available right now. I believe this is the best sniper buster for sure available, has the biggest range, has some very nice hidden skills between player killer and penetration. I think player killer is better, because for player killer you just have to exist with it to take effect. Penetration, while it does have higher potential for DPS, it's a bit harder to use, and on more open maps, or if you're fighting someone where you can't really make use of the penetration, whereas maybe you angle your shot wrong so you don't get the penetration, or like I said, you're just in a more open area, or more open map, or just in a more open area of the map where the fight is taking place, then the penetration won't be as useful in those spots. So that's why I think that player killer is just better on that, just because you just have to exist with the weapon, right? It doesn't take much more than that. But anyway, explosive bolt up there. Next up, the other two sniper busters we have available, between the destructive laser and the aptly named sniper buster. Now for these two, I feel like these two are pretty interchangeable. Destructive laser definitely has higher rate of fire, but the sniper buster has a bit more damage with it, if I remember correctly. So I think these two are interchangeable. The sniper buster is also available for free, though you have to be quite a high level to research it in the lab, whereas the destructive laser is a limited weapon, so you can only pull for that during limited weapon banners. So I think it's more likely people would have sniper buster over destructive laser. But again, I think those are interchangeable. And then finally, I just want to include air buster up there as well. I could put air buster in niche, but what air buster does allow you to do is it just provides a speed boost. So specifically for air buster, I really could put it in niche, but for your buster melee builds, I think air buster is extremely good for those type of units, because someone like Zero Nightmare or Dark Mega Man, it allows them to get a speed boost and then easily close in on the opposition with, or you know, engage or disengage with the opposition. But also because Elite Hunters is really good, and a lot of units can just make use of Elite Hunter, so melee plus buster. So because of that, I'm not going to put air buster in niche, although I really think I could make an argument for putting it down there. So following that, we have launchers. Launchers are pretty decolon in terms of PvP. There's really only two good launchers for PvP. We have the Cannon God, which I mention frequently in my character overviews, and then we have the Turbo Cannon. Now, I think Turbo Cannon is a little bit better than the Cannon God, because Turbo Cannon just gives iframes, and iframes are always good, whereas Cannon God just pierces terrain, has stuns. I think iframes are much more valuable. But with that said, depending on the character, you might value the terrain piercing a lot more than the iframes, because the character might inherently have iframes. Though, like I said, having access to immediate iframes, I think, just makes the Turbo Cannon better than the Cannon God. So there's that. Not really any other launchers worth using in PvP, I don't feel. Next up, Melee. And with Melee, you know, we gotta include the Nightmare. Nightmare has been a phenomenal weapon since the start of X Dive, and I don't think that we're gonna get a weapon that does what Nightmare does anytime soon, especially in the global version. Maybe in the Taiwan version we might get something that's just a direct upgrade from it, but for now, Nightmare, I think, is still one of the best weapons to use. Following Nightmare, we have the Grudge Axe here. Grudge Axe, we got Grudge Axe quite early, I believe, in global, which is pretty bad. Bad in the sense that Grudge Axe is a really good weapon, even though I don't really like the weapon all that much. I say that a lot, but I can't deny the Grudge Axe is a fantastic weapon. Melee users, it can inflict out of control status, which reverses your horizontal controls, and it doesn't dispel buffs, it steals buffs. So if my opponent has like the Chameleon chip is up and I hit them with my Grudge Axe, well, now your Chameleon chip belongs to me, that invulnerability. So that's very, very nice there. And speaking of weapons with direct upgrades, Singularity Slasher, I still think Singularity Slasher is a solid melee weapon pick. However, because we got the Grudge Axe, you just use Grudge Axe over Singularity Slasher, right? Like, it's just Grudge Axe is just better, because rather than dispelling the buffs, you just take them for yourself, which is just better for you to do. Though I still think Singularity Slasher is quite nice to have. And then aside from that, we have the Ancient Relic. Ancient Relic is different from the other weapons. Ancient Relic is just here for its overall utility. It has access to dot damage, being damage over time. It also has versatility with all 4 of its hidden skills. It has crit damage up, which is okay. 99% multiplier on that. It has access to a shield if you deplete the energy. All its hidden skills will probably deplete the energy. Shield, which is very nice to have, though, like I said, with the Grudge Axe, maybe you don't want the shield as much, because if your opponent takes it, that's pretty decolon right there. It also has Isuna, or Cleanse, which purifies their character of all their debuffs. And aside from that, it also has a speed buff as well, which is very, very nice there. So Ancient Relic is just really good for those, and you can use Ancient Relic in melee buster combinations if you really choose to as well, just because this will allow you to get your speed, then that frees up your buster for maybe Explosive Bolt instead. Following that, we have Sprayers. Now, for those of you that have been playing X-Dive for a while, you already know Explosive Spray Gun, or Explosive Blower. Yeah, wow, that was very difficult. Explosive Blower, just a fantastic sprayer. It has high power, very short range, but high power, and has the ability to inflict Immobilize, which Immobilize is a very good status as well. Immobilize or Stun means you can't move for about a second or two. It's not a 5-second cooldown, but with one of its passes, that makes it a 4-second cooldown, which is even better. So you just have to watch out for getting close with that. Following that, Gator Fangs. Gator Fangs is a great weapon as well. It's a sprayer, short range, much like the Explosive Blower. However, this combines the power of the Explosive Blower with the added effect of inflicting chilled as well, so basically slow on the opposition. It also has some passives that increase the damage when it's in very close proximity. Alongside that, it has access to a buff that allows it to fire faster and reload faster as well. So those are really, really good. For sprayers, I think that's basically it, though. Next up, machine guns. And machine guns, I think those are a real big decolon in terms of PvP. I don't really like the machine gun. Like, I like the machine guns, but I don't really like them in PvP. But the ones that I could recommend for PvP, I think are decent choices, would be the Atomic Disintegration. So when I said these aren't very good for PvP, I think Atomic Disintegration is actually just really good. However, it causes massive frame drops, so you basically won't be able to play the game. Neither will your opponent, but just because, like, there's so many things happening because of firing this gun, like, it's really, I really shouldn't recommend it, but I think it's one of the better machine guns we have access to. for PvP. Aside from that, we have the Savage Tusk of Thunder. Oh, also this Time Disintegration can inflict out of control as well. So reverse horizontal movements. Savage Tusk of Thunder, I think, is a fantastic weapon as well. Unfortunately, it's the machine gun, and I just think the other weapon types are just better overall for what we have right now available. Though Savage Tusk of Thunder is really nice. It has access to Dispel, so it can remove buffs from the opposition. Though again, if you can remove buffs, when you can just take them for yourself with Grudge Axe. So like that's, I feel like I can't really use that as like a bit like a selling point for weapons right now. But what it also has access to is a unique defense crush with its Trojan Horse skill. So that's really nice. And with its hidden skills, you can either snag yourself the defense crush special attack, so it deals more damage to defense crush targets. The player killer, so just 12% raw damage when you're in PvP. And confusion to disable the automatic aim of the opposition, which is very, very nice to have there as well. And with that, we are just about done here. Now we're on to the niche category. So let's start. Actually, I'm actually going to put Assault Rifle up here in Machine Gun as well. I was thinking about putting it in niche, but I think I'll put Assault Rifle in just the Machine Gun category right there. Assault Rifle is one of the lesser used weapons, but what it does allow you to do is it shots ricochet, so that's pretty nice as it is off of terrain. Also pierces targets, but doesn't really matter all that much in PvP. Well, no, actually that does matter a bit, because depending on the map, you can make use of the ricochet and the penetration back and forth a good amount of times, but it has access to immobilize as well. So that's something to keep in mind when using or facing someone that has access to this gun. And like I said, it's one of the lesser used weapons, I'm pretty sure. So many people might not even know that it can penetrate, ricochet, or has access to stun, immobilize. So now we're getting into the niche category, and as you can see, there's quite a lot more weapons here. It's a little bit of a spoiler alert. Not all these weapons are going to be placed on the list, like for reasons that I mentioned earlier, just the ones that are good for PvP. So first up, I think I want to put the Glittering Spark there. Glittering Spark is a pretty interesting weapon. It allows you to stack debuffs on your opponent, just obliterating them. And the debuffs that this one inflicts are Attack Crush or Attack Down, just inherently, which you can combine with the Mad Nautilus chip to further reduce their attack. And what this allows you to do is basically have your own kind of tanky unit, so to speak. It's because you're obliterating their attack quite a bit. And it obliterates their attack by roughly between 28 and 30% when using this. And then you stack that with the Mad Nautilus chip, so they'll be doing even less damage. And then if you happen to use someone with, say, inherent defenses, so maybe they have machine gun adaptability, maybe throw some player sentinels in there, you can have like a kind of little makeshift thing. And then if they have a defense boost of their own, to give them, say, maybe like 25, 30 defense while their defense buff is active, well, you're going to be a little bit of a tankier unit yourself. So that's something you can do. I remember people used to run this with Cinnamon back in the day, because Cinnamon would buff herself, use this so the opposition would do single digit damage, which is quite nice for the Cinnamon player anyway. Alright, up next, Icicle Fang. I think Icicle Fang is a decent niche weapon as well. As Icicle Fang, I don't think it's that great as a melee weapon, but what it does have is a hidden skill that reduces damage taken by 12% in short range. You know, if you're in short range with someone, it reduces damage taken by 12%. So what you could do is you put this on someone with defenses. I forgot the name of the player that frequently does this in the XIV community, but someone does it. The name slips my mind right now. It might be Vinny. I honestly don't remember. But regardless, Vinny has a Zero Nightmare equipped with this, and like I said, I think it's Vinny. Insert player here. They have that, and they take like 0 damage. People always think they're cheating. It's like, no. Zero Nightmare just has a lot of inherent ways to reduce damage that you could have potentially on them with DNA and stuff. And then on top of that, with this, you're going to be doing like very little damage in general. Single double digit damage. So I think that's worth putting in niche. Alongside that, I'm going to put the electric current sprayer. This one, I think is a bit more niche. It has Defense Crush on it, which is a pretty fat Defense Crush. I think it's about a 30, in between 30 and 35% Defense Crush right there. So maybe you're tired of running into, you know, your tankier units, so you want to pack this. It's not the greatest thing to have, but something with like this can just allow you to deal more damage as you're decreasing their defenses and making them take 35% more damage. So now all of a sudden, let's say let's say they have about 50% defenses. Well, now that 50 has been more than cut in half, and you can do a lot more damage more easily. Alongside that, this also has the capability of piercing terrains. It has a pretty solid range, and you can also inflict immobilize with this as well, and that's quite nice. All right, and I think that will wrap up this little kind of tier list here. I'm not really sure what to call this. It's not really a tier list. It's just the weapons I think are the best for each category as it stands for what we have right now on global. Obviously, this will change as we get more and more weapons until we start catching up to the Taiwan version. But for now on global, this is where I would put, or these are the weapons I think that are best for PvP, and I think the ones that people use the most. Even in the niche category, I think that Icicle Fang is probably the one that's used the most here. But that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know those of you that have been requesting this for quite a while, this might be very different than what you expected from this, but again, it's going to depend largely on what units you're using. So real quick, before we end off this video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to my patrons, my YouTube channel members, for supporting me, allowing me to continue doing what I do. If you'd like to support me via Patreon or as a YouTube channel member, you can find information on how to do so down below the video, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.